Sometimes I wonder, are the things we believe in or stand in for really our own thoughts? Or have they been quietly shaped by what we see, read, and hear every day? We scroll through endless content on a daily basis, seeing sometimes useful, outrageous, horrifying, stupid, or just funny things. But much of it is outside our control. We are surrounded by headlines, slogans, images, and soundbites. And whether it's a meme, a political speech, or a viral video, each can plant ideas in our minds, often without us realizing it.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And this isn't new, it's called propaganda. And while it has taken many forms, religious ceremonies, wartime posters, corporate branding, digital disinformation, its goal has always been the same, to influence us. So the real question is, how much of what we think is actually ours? Propaganda isn't just a relic of war, it's a mirror to power, a tool that influences public thought, often without us realizing it. So who really controls the narrative, and how much of what you believe is truly your own thought?
In the words, Ich bin ein Berliner.
Well, propaganda comes in many forms: spoken words, printed leaflets, dramatic films, and today, algorithm-powered content. Scholars would classify it into verbal, visual, and digital forms, each with its unique own power. The term propaganda comes from the Latin propagare, meaning to spread or propagate. It was first officially used by the Catholic Church in 1622. While initially neutral, the word gained a strong negative meaning during the 20th century, especially in wartime. But propaganda existed long before the word itself. Pharaohs, Roman emperors, and Chinese dynasties used statues, coins, and inscriptions to glorify rulers and justify power. In ancient Greece, orators like Demosthenes mastered the rhetoric way of speaking to realize support or resistance. Even democratic societies recognized the persuasive power of well-crafted messaging. Religion has long used propaganda to inspire belief, loyalty, and obedience. From the dramatic altarpieces of European cathedrals to the inscriptions of Ashoka the Great in India, spiritual messages were embedded in stone, music, ritual, and art. The Crusades were fueled by speeches framing them as divine missions. Protestant Reformation weaponized the printing press. Martin Luther's 95 Theses sparked theological and political rebellion. In response, the Counter-Reformation produced emotionally charged art and missionary campaigns led by the Jesuits. In the Islamic world, the Ottomans commissioned elegant calligraphy and grand architecture to reinforce religious and imperial authority. Across civilizations and cultures, belief systems and rulers were intertwined, and propaganda ensured their endurance. Political revolutions and regimes have always needed stories, and propaganda turned political goals into national missions. Slogans like "No taxation without representation" or "Liberté, égalité et fraternité" ignited revolts and united people alike. During World War I, we saw an industrial-scale propaganda. Recruitment posters like "Your country needs you" and "Uncle Sam wants you" became iconic. Nations like the US, France, and Britain used war-bond propaganda to turn saving money into a patriotic duty. The Liberty Loan drives mobilized celebrities and media to fund the war effort, while newspapers censored dissent. In World War II, propaganda reached terrifying sophistication. In Nazi Germany, propaganda was not just a wartime tool. It was the foundation of an entire regime. The transformation of an entire society into a political machine loyal to Adolf Hitler was achieved not through force alone, but through an unprecedented and meticulously coordinated propaganda effort. From the rise of the Nazi Party, the NSDAP, in the 1920s, propaganda played a key role. Hitler himself outlined its principles in Mein Kampf, declaring that propaganda must appeal to emotion over intellect and repeat simple messages relentlessly. Once in power, the regime appointed Joseph Goebbels as Minister of Propaganda in 1933. He centralized control of all media, newspapers, film, theater, music, radio, and even school books, ensuring a singular voice, that of the Nazi state. Children were indoctrinated through the Hitler Youth, and textbooks reinforced anti-Semitic and ultra-nationalist ideologies. Posters showing Aryan ideals, glorified soldiers, and demonized enemies filled public spaces. The propaganda machine extended into everyday life. Concerts, calendars, parades, and even Christmas ornaments were branded with Nazi imagery. Radio ownership was subsidized to ensure every home could hear Hitler's speeches. Every aspect of life carried the state's message. Psychologically, the propaganda system created a culture of conformity. Fear of exclusion, shame, and peer pressure pushed citizens to comply, while symbols and rituals reinforced the unity. Through repetition, spectacle, and isolation from dissenting information, the truth became just one, the one the Nazis wanted to implement. Millions of Germans believed that they were building a stronger nation, while others were desensitized or pressured into silence. The consequences were catastrophic. Complicity in genocide, destruction of democracy, and a war that engulfed the whole world. Nazi Germany showed that propaganda could reshape reality itself and turn ordinary people into instruments of authoritarian power. The Allies responded with their own campaigns. The US created the Office of War Information to produce radio dramas, posters, and films aimed at moral and unity. Britain's Ministry of Information did the same, shaping war narratives and managing public morale. In the Soviet Union, leaders like Lenin and Stalin controlled information with precision. Statues rose in their honor, textbooks were rewritten, and art was tightly controlled. Propaganda wasn't just words, it was the shaping of reality. The Soviet Union elevated propaganda into a tool of societal framework. Education, media, art, and architecture were tools of the ideological control. Children were taught to revere party leaders, and textbooks glorified the revolution. Over 14,000 statues of Lenin were erected across the USSR and satellite states, and many of them are still standing today. Stalin too was immortalized in metal and stone, often portrayed as the father of nations. These visual monuments were daily reminders of power and loyalty, and propaganda. Even more surprisingly, remnants of Soviet propaganda can be found in unexpected places, from a Lenin statue in Seattle to Soviet war memorials in Mozambique and Mongolia. And there's even a statue of Lenin in Antarctica. These are the relics of not just ideology, but also of influence. Posters glorifying workers, heroic mothers, and space pioneers filled city walls. Slogans like "Glory to the Soviet people" and "Study, work, defend the motherland" were omnipresent. Propaganda wasn't just consumed, it was lived. Assimilation into the collective ideology started from childhood and was reinforced daily. After World War II, propaganda evolved into a powerful and ever-present tool in the Cold War. A conflict defined not just by military standoff, but by ideological and psychological warfare between the East and the West. The United States and the Soviet Union waged a global campaign to promote their competing systems. Capitalism versus communism. democracy versus authoritarianism. Propaganda shaped public opinion, foreign policy, education, and even culture. In the West, institutions like the United States Information Agency were established in 1953 to manage international messaging. They produced films, radio programs, books, and exhibitions to promote American values. The Voice of America broadcast pro-democracy content across the Iron Curtain in over 40 languages. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union, through agencies like Glavit for censorship and Agitprop for political education, distributed posters, newsreels, and literature celebrating the achievement of socialism and the Soviet worker. Propaganda reinforced loyalty to the Communist Party in vilified capitalist nations. Key moments like the Berlin airlift in 1948 and 1949, the Korean War, and the Cuban Missile Crisis were accompanied by waves of propaganda from both sides. The space race even became a propaganda background, especially when Yuri Gagarin orbited Earth in 1961. The Soviet media hailed it as proof of communism's superiority, while the American moon landing in 1969 was framed as a democratic triumph. And also, while I was doing research on the topic of propaganda and the Cold War, I found a small little interesting thing I wanted to tell you about. In 1958, the United States Air Force had a plan called Project A-119. The goal of the project was to detonate a nuclear bomb on the moon, which would help in answering some of the scientific questions we have. This was meant as a show of force, resulting in a possible boosting of domestic morale in the capabilities of the United States. And this was needed because, as I said before, the Soviet Union took an early lead in the space race with Yuri Gagarin. Propaganda even infiltrated education and entertainment. In the US, the Congress for Cultural Freedom covertly founded anti-communist literature. School curricula glorified Marxism, Leninism, and promoted fear of Western corruption. The Cold War also introduced new psychological tools. Propaganda was embedded in film, architecture, sports, and international events. The goal wasn't just persuasion, but ideological domination, often blurring the lines between truth and fiction. From morals to radio waves and to the space race, the Cold War propaganda was omnipresent once again, and quietly shaping the world for over 4 decades. In China, Mao Zedong used propaganda to reshape society as well. His Little Red Book became a symbol of loyalty, and his Cultural Revolution encouraged youth to denounce teachers, parents, and traditions. In the 1950s, China and the USSR released joint posters promoting Sino-Soviet friendship, depicting harmonious socialist unity. And propaganda not only ruled the minds, it rewrote identities. About the effects of these propaganda tools, wars, and assimilations, I would need to do a separate video about this topic. But if you want to know more about the topic, just let me know in the comments, and I will get to work. And nowadays, in the digital era, propaganda has become decentralized and more personal. Social media platforms tailor the content based on your behavior, your data, and your likings, creating a somewhat kind of bubble, but yet, every now and then, you get stuff you don't want to see or you don't even care about, right? I mean, we all know that. A 2022 study by the Oxford Internet Institute found out algorithmic curation is one of the biggest drivers of political polarization online. Peer research reports that 64% of Americans believe fake news causes confusion. Disinformation spreads faster than facts. Platforms like Facebook, X, and YouTube have struggled to combat manipulated content, especially during elections and crises. And there's actually a pretty good Netflix movie or documentary about it. It's the Cambridge something something. I'm gonna link it here. And in a world where influence is a business, propaganda may no longer need a government. It needs a trending hashtag. The line between persuasion and manipulation is blurrier than ever. Influencers, once just lifestyle content creators, now shape public opinions, sell ideologies, and push their own products, merchandise, or even online courses.
Game.
It's a game. It's a really fun game that makes you money.
From conspiracy-driven podcasts to misleading education channels, misinformation has become an industry. Not all of them do that, right? But the tactics, emotional appeal, repetition, and simplified narratives are centuries-old tools of persuasion. Even political movements now mirror marketing strategies. Carefully crafted personas, slogans, and viral formats turn opinion into branding. And the more relatable the messenger, the more powerful the message.
Never touched by a human hand. Nice and clean.
It just raises the question, have we become our own propagandists? I mean, not all influencers or content creators are crazy or misleading you out there, right? So I think it's always important to think for yourself. And also, to raise questions about certain things. If you're not sure that if you see something on the internet is true or not, well, just do some research, maybe ask your friends, right? And to be honest, I don't even think that most people think about social media as like a propaganda tool. I mean, maybe the government or some companies, right? But the most people I would say who use social media as like a platform, I don't know, to like build a brand or something, don't have that thought in their mind. I mean, maybe they do, maybe they don't, who knows? Propaganda isn't just the strategic use of the message to influence thoughts, feelings, and actions. It's not inherently evil, but it is inherently powerful. And it can build nations or destroy trust, unify or divide. So before you share, click, or believe even this video, ask yourself, where did this idea come from? Is it really right? Is it really wrong? Or is it even true? And more importantly, who would benefit from you believing in it? My advice to you, think for yourself and think critical. What video should I do next? Which historical content, topic, or figure should we talk about? Maybe it's time that you propagate now towards me, to influence me what kind of video I do, right? Or is that even then my own video if you guys tell me what to do? Well, I don't know, because I'm not a psychologist, but until next time, and don't forget, this is History Crafts, where history crafts itself.
Members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.